All right.
Hey there guys, my name is Mario, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a tax on high-fat foods. As a personal trainer, I encounter many people that have many very similar goals, and their goal is generally to lose weight, but they simply don't know how. So they hire me at about $100 a session and 3 times a week for about 3 months. I'm not very cheap. It comes out to about $3,600. They get the results. While I make a living and change lives being a personal trainer, I know that I'm not very cheap. So the problem isn't really them. That's what I've come out to find. But it's the convenience of having high-fat foods present everywhere they go. However, I find there is a solution. So I propose a 20% tax increase on all processed foods that contain 10% or more calories from fat. This will make unhealthy, high-fat foods less desirable and help curb the current obesity epidemic. Now, there are a few points that I want to touch on and address regarding this taxing of high-fat foods. The first, that they will help prevent obesity by lowering illnesses and medical costs. Two, that we have learned from past events such as the cigarette tax and how successful it has been in deterring cigarettes, and it would follow a model similar to that. And 3, I want to review a couple of the policies that we'd implement in order to make this a reality and to make obesity a thing of the past. So my first point, taxing high-fat foods will lower obesity rates and reduce obesity-related medical costs and illnesses. Now, eating high-fat foods leads to huge medical risks. Such diseases are like heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. But those simply aren't enough. Those aren't simply enough to deter anybody from buying cheap food. The reason is that cheap food tends to be affordable, at least more affordable than healthy foods. Now, a 20% tax increase on high-fat foods will help even out the playing field, making healthy foods more desirable to buy and unhealthy foods less desirable. The CDC, or the Center of Disease Control, states that 2/3 of American adults are currently overweight or obese, and that by 2030, half will be. If this isn't a call for action, I don't know what is. We aren't doing nearly enough as a country to address this epidemic. Although Big Macs and Twinkies are only a few bucks now, are you really saving money? According to Al Finkelstein from fastin.org, obesity-related treatments cost between $147 to $210 billion annually. He also states that obese people spend 42% more on healthcare than healthy people. That means that our cheap, high-fat foods that we consume now, we will actually end up paying in medical costs later down the line. A 20% increase now will not only serve as a deterrent, but will also be help set aside some of that tax money to fund medical costs, or subsidize the rising cost of healthcare on obesity-related illnesses such as diabetes and heart disease. So the law's purpose is simply to help fight obesity. Delos Konzgo, a heart surgeon, states in the New York Times that our national weight problem brings huge costs, both medical and economical. Yet anti-obesity efforts have none of the urgency that it needs. We aren't doing enough. This 20% tax is a huge step in the right direction to help combat obesity. Jen Caldice from theweek.com states, economists generally agree that government intervention, including taxation, is justified when the market fails to provide optimum good for society, for society's well-being. This is stated in the British Medical Journal that reviews over 30 studies regarding the effect of food taxes on the population. There must be an intervention. But how successful can it be? This brings me to my next point regarding past taxation. So we have seen in the past with great success that taxing cigarettes has been successful in deterring smoking. And it will be or act as our model for the proposed 20% tax of high-fat foods. David Lionheart states that cigarette taxes could serve as a model for obesity-causing foods. Following the implementation of a steep cigarette tax in the late 1990s, Smoking rates plummeted sharply from its peak in 1960, which was 42%, to less than 20%. What does that tell you that taxing is capable of? If it can deter people from smoking, which has the highly addictive chemical nicotine, it can surely help people buy fatty foods less often. David Lionheart also goes on to say that the solution to the problems are beyond the control of any individual. That means not really up to us, but it must involve civic and political responsibility. It depends on collective action. It depends on the collective action that helped cut smoking by half. So from there, I wanna move on to the policies that we put into place in order to make this a reality. So who's gonna regulate this? It's gonna be up to the FDA to take it upon themselves to kind of regulate which foods are gonna be encompassed under this law. It's not gonna involve any kind of raw foods like nuts, milk, butter, stuff like that. It's gonna be processed food only. It has to go through certain processes like Big Macs, your Twinkies, stuff like that, and it has to be over 10% of its total calories from fat. The FDA will also create an organization, would in turn create jobs, that would go out and conduct random screens of different stores to see if they're abiding. Now, if they turn out that they're not abiding by these tax laws, or not correctly taxing, they would incur a penalty of about $5,000 and then just kind of keep going up as they get caught not following the law. So, to conclude, a 20% tax on all processed food containing 10% or more calories and fat is essential. It will fight obesity, related illnesses, and lower health costs. It will follow the same principles of cigarette tax, and will have we will have policies in place to enforce that law. Our nation faces a domestic danger of obesity, which houses over half of our top 10 illnesses that we currently face. If we do not take action now, we face our country being over half obese. Thank you.